I promised you at the end of the last segment that we would return, and we in fact have returned. If you missed any of our program, that's okay. We have lots of repeats that you can catch up on. The first one's at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 midnight, and again at 5 a.m. in the morning. So lots of ways you can catch up on the great content that we've had today. And then, of course, you can catch up on the podcast as well. If you've missed any of the other stuff during the week, Danielle and I have been having a great time this week. And to continue this great time, it's time for Curious Minds with Christine Malec. Let's bring her on.
Whatever happened to him? What does that mean? How does that work?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I never knew. I'm Christine Malec, and this is Curious Minds, a monthly dive into arts and culture from a blindness perspective.
Hello, Christine. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Today we're talking about a unique creation, a song with a music video and audio described. That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. So the Alliance for Equality of Blind Canadians recently hosted a virtual fundraiser called Let the Music Flow. One of the pieces showcased was a song with accompanying audio described music video. The song is called Make a Difference, and it's an original by Ryan Fleury. So Ryan Fleury works for Canadian Assistive Technologies, providing sales and support to blind and partially sighted customers. He lives in Coquitlam, and he's totally blind. In his spare time, he's a singer-songwriter who enjoys playing guitar, bass guitar, and composing his own music. His colleague, Rob Minot, produced the music video. By day, Rob is a communications director for a charity in Vancouver called Blind Beginnings. In his spare time, he describes himself as an amateur video editor. Ryan and Rob are also the co-hosts of AT Banter, which is a podcast that some of you are probably familiar with. So for this project, they partnered with Descriptive Video Works, and the result is extraordinary. If you're a connoisseur of audio description, you might recognize the voice of description narrator Diane Newman. She's received a lot of social media accolades for her work on Breaking Bad. So I recently got to speak with Ryan and Rob about the song and the music video and how this really extraordinary project came together. So let's give a listen.
Ryan, I was sort of strolling around my house listening to the AEBC virtual concert, and when I heard your song and your video, I literally stopped in my tracks and I was transfixed for a whole bunch of reasons. And it was so powerful for a lot of different reasons. And there's so many to discuss, but one that I was left really curious about is how does a blind artist, a blind musician, get to a place of deciding, I want to turn my music into a visual art form, into a video? What was the mental process you went through for that?
It was almost a panic that came to me because the song has been done for almost 6 months now, and there was no thought of doing a described version of it until the AEBC, Alliance for the Equality of Blind Canadians, presented me with an opportunity to submit a song for a virtual concert they were doing. And I thought, well, this audience is blind and partially sighted. How great would it be if I could turn this into a descriptive video? And so I reached out to my colleague, Rob, who I've worked with for almost 20 years, to put the video together. And once the video came together, reached out to our friend Diane Johnson at Descriptive Video Works and said, hey, is this something you'd be willing to take a crack at? And it all came together.
Has there ever been another described music video? Do I live under a rock? Like, is this a thing?
It's funny. I did a bit of research, and the only one I could find was one that was done in the early 2000s by Stevie Wonder.
Oh, really? That's so
I think we're breaking new ground.
I love that. Rob, I'd like to ask you about the process of turning a song into a video. How collaborative was that, and which pieces of that came from your own creativity?
Yeah, I mean, when I heard the song, I sort of had the same effect on me. I was was stunned by just how relevant it was, and it, it stirred a lot of emotions in me. So I guess when I sat down to start to try to put video to it, it came out of a place of just like trying to sort of match the emotions that the song instilled in me, and trying to sort of portray that visually. And, just doing that sort of verse by verse and trying to sort of build the song visually, just like Ryan had built the song audio, in an audio format.
So did you sort of sit down and work it through and come up with ideas on your own and then discuss them with Ryan, or did you two sit down together with that process?
Ryan gave me a pretty loose leash on that. He was very open to just letting me go. And so what I basically did is I came up with a visual framework, a very rough edit, and then came back to him and showed it to him and his wife. And they sort of, discussed it and gave me some notes and some suggestions on things, and then just gave me, another complete run at it. I think it's because, we've worked together so long and we've had a relationship for so long that, he was very trusting to me. He knew that the vision I guess he trusted me with his vision. Actually, there was a little bit of a narrative process to it. If you actually watch it a few times over, some of those people do recur. And That's right.
Yeah.
And I did kind of try to, build a little bit of a mini narrative there, which, if you listen to the described version, I was amazed to see that the folks at Descriptive Video Works actually picked up on a lot of that stuff that was really, when I did it, I just figured it was going to be subtext that nobody would really notice. But they did pick up on that, and they were able to weave that into the audio description.
It's beautifully done. There's a couple looking at a video, a screen, and they're very distraught. And then later they're celebrating. They've obviously heard, or there's a man talking angrily, and then later he looks more chilled out and calm. The same man. So yeah, the describer does piece that together beautifully. There's a few specific shout outs like Black Lives Matter, or perhaps a nod to homelessness, and a few very rather specific things. So Ryan, when you were exposed to the video as Rob first produced it, what was your response to that? How did you feel about where he had taken it?
I still watch that video almost every day, sometimes twice a day, and I still get choked up watching it.
Me too.
It can bring a tear to my eye.
Oh, I cried. I'll tell you flat. I just stood there, and it was very, very powerful. It was really moving. So he nailed it, is what you're saying.
He did. I have no complaints at all.
What was the process of approaching the audio description? I assume that you began the idea of a video with that as a built-in component, but how did you pursue that?
We've had Diane Johnson from Descriptive Video Works on our podcast, AT Banter, a couple of times. And when the AEBC virtual concert was presented, I only had about 2 weeks to actually get all of this done, if it was going to happen at all. So I reached out to Diane. I said, hey, there's this virtual concert for blind and partially sighted people that is being put on. I have this music. I have this video. Is this something you'd be willing to attempt? And she came back to me and said, absolutely. And so they got one of their script writers to write up a script. They went into the studio when they could and recorded the track. And Descriptive Video Works was very willing to accommodate this.
It was interesting because I'm sure that you didn't write the song with this in mind, but it has these lovely pauses in it. There's a line, and then there's this instrumental little pause. That was not intentional, right?
That was not intentional because there was no plans to do a descriptive video version of this song at all. That's just the way the song came out. And when I spoke to Diane, it's one of the tricky things about whether they're doing description for movies, TVs, or other video styles, is not stepping over the dialogue or the lyrics of a song. And so, the way the song is spaced out lyrically, they were able to fit the dialogue in, and yeah, it's beautiful.
So I guess we can assume that this is the kind of project they've never done before.
They haven't. It is something they've been looking at, and I think we're probably going to see more. They've started doing video games as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's a whole new frontier.
Once I heard it, I just had this, this light went on. I was like, describe music videos. Why isn't this a thing? Why have we not ever had this? And music videos have been around for decades, and yet still we hadn't had this before. Ryan, on the actual song, which parts are you?
I did the acoustic guitar. I did the singing. Mike Charcello did the electric guitar, the keyboards, and put together the drum track for me, and then mixed it all.
Rob, had you ever done a music video before?
Not a music video. No, that was my first kick at the can.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm really pleased at how it turned out. Although I'll be honest, when I was done and I submitted it to Ryan, I really thought, okay, well, it was okay. It wasn't really until he started to get the feedback after the concert that I realized that, oh, okay, well, this is something that's really striking a chord with people. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of it has to do with, I don't know, in a way, I think we all got kind of lucky because it was just sort of the right things coming together at the right time. Because I think that certainly I can see why something like a described music video hasn't happened before, because it's got to be incredibly difficult to put all those elements together in a way that it's going to work. And, I have to say, Descriptive Video Works out of all this are the real MVPs, because they were able to take that video, and none of us collaborated together. It wasn't like Ryan and I, worked on the music together, and then I came up with the video elements, and we built it in a way that would leave space for the described video. This was like 3 different aspects of the song being formulated completely separate from each other, all coming together and able to mesh into this thing that really struck a chord with people. And I could see that being really difficult to try to do on a monthly basis. That's for sure. Mm-hmm.
There's definitely something magical about it. And so I want to call it the song, but then I want to call it the video. But neither of those terms is complete. It's a work of art in itself, because for me and the people who've listened, the description is also so brilliantly done that it's become part of the piece of art. And I also think that it's so much a song for today. It's timeless in the themes, but there's so much going on in the world where we all have to make choices. And I just want to say again how amazing it is, and thank you both, and to the description for the describer and describing writing as well. It's a fabulous piece of work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having us, and I'm glad you liked it.
That was Christine Malec on Curious Minds. She joins us on the 3rd Thursday of the month for her Curious Minds segments. Coming up next, we reach into the archives. This time we're going to hear from Mark Phoenix and the one and only Kelly and Ramya. Just to remind you, they are still around. We'll be right back. Hang in.